What's going on, everybody? We just got through watching the most recent episode of Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Let's find out what everybody thinks about it. Alrighty, just got through watching this most recent episode of Star Wars The Skeleton Crew with everybody, and let's see what everybody thought about it. Adelia, go ahead.
I liked this episode. It was a very different episode than the episodes that we've gotten so far. We were on this new planet that was very, strange landscape, but it was very familiar to the kids because it was laid out like at-attin. And we've pretty much discovered this is one of the other sort of crown jewel planets that Kim, the little owl creature, was talking about in the last episode, but it wasn't their planet. And them like this war going on, and these kids have never been in the middle of anything like that before. And Neil was the MVP of this episode for me. Like his whole interactions with Hana, the daughter of the Troik leader, were so cute, and I think by the end of it he'd completely forgotten about Runa's existence. He has a new crush.
All right, Brandi, what'd you think?
I thought it was cute. It was, yeah, they weren't on their right planet that they thought there was. It did look a little bit like them, but it was definitely more dreary than what they remembered. And then they ran into people, and they were like, "What flag do you like represent?" Basically, and they're like, "I have no idea what's going on." So they didn't know that this planet was based, I guess, on war, like two sides going after each other. And Neil, being the little gentle soul that he is, was like, "I just like peace and kindness, and just we don't fight. I know what my purpose is. When I get older, I'm gonna do what my mom does. We take a test, we do this, we have kindness, And the girl that was the daughter, the guy that's in charge of their tribe, she said when she gets older, when she's finally in charge, that she'll try to make it a little bit more peaceful, like Neil was describing to her. And I thought that was cute.
All right, so
pretty different, cute episode in some ways.
Yeah, so that's the thing that I would be getting from like most of the episodes for this show and stuff like that. Words that you can say like a lot is like, so far, been having fun watching it, and like the cuteness or whatever, that's going to be some big key words with that. I will agree that like there are some interesting things in this, like they go to the one planet and it's not, it looks like theirs, but it's not. And then why did this other captain of SM33 like have him like rip the coordinates off that pillar so that people can't find it? Like, so what is at that planet that they actually come from at at-attin that makes it so special, like as far as whether it be treasure or whatever it is, right? So like this captain ordered the droid to, hey, hide this stuff, and if anybody comes poking around, rip them apart kind of situation. So there must be something there, right? You wouldn't do that unless you knew there was something there. So that's the mystery part of it, which I like the mystery is what's up with this planet. We got a little more information about the planet, but now it's more about what the planet is. It's not about like, so that's the new mystery sort of now, is like finding out why these other people did all that. I will say this was one of my weaker episodes, just because I thought this is something like said it a couple of times to some of the shows that we watch that do. I think so. Some shows, if they do it well, and especially hour-long episodes, you can do like an 8-episode or a 9-episode kind of show, or even 10, and everything be okay, work great, and have a great, awesome thing of television. But there's a lot of these things with these shorter like run times and shorter episode lengths that runs into a problem. To me, in this episode, the problem that I had was like, this should have been like at least 2 to 3 episode like story arc of them being on this planet, right? Finding out that it's not their planet. And then you get to see like them maybe do like an episode of them training with some funny, fun stuff that goes on during it and all this. But like, because of the way they set it up, you get Jude Law's character like being in a bad situation. We don't get to see that. He just tells us in a little bit of a thing after they find him later on. And then they were forced to do things like for the new girl that we found on this planet that Brandi was just talking about, like having to do things to be kind of cool, but then it wasn't as cool because it could have been a better setup if we would have been with her for more than just one episode of her maybe doing some like cool things here and there. I mean, there's like a point, like I haven't said it while we're watching it, like she does like, it looked cool, like a cool little baseball slide thing where she slides and then gets up real quick and everything.
The cooler one was the flip at the end.
Yeah,
But it was like,
at the end.
yeah, but it was like, but I'm just saying, like, especially the baseball slide thing was done for no reason. They wasn't getting shot at, none of that. So it was like, oh, well, we got to try to make this character really cool and we got to do it really fast because we don't have a lot of time. It just runs into that issue. Like I said, I thought them finding this planet and stuff probably would have done better if it was at least 2 episodes, maybe even 3 of you seeing these kids like, because it's literally so fast that like they get there, they get told they're going to get trained. They train for like 5-10 minutes of the episode, if that. And then they're already put in the lead of like being in charge of, say, going out against like a fighting force possibly or whatever, because they didn't know what it was. It ended up being Jude Law, thankfully for the kids. But to me, just like this episode it was just rushed to me, like I guess because of time constraints.
I liked it.
See, we're going to completely disagree on this, Justin, because I don't think you need to spend 3 episodes on this planet.
No.
I don't think you need to spend 2 episodes on this planet. They got there. They had a little detour with this Troik fighting force. We got some character building moments with Neil and Hannah, the daughter, and then they got taken to the spot where they needed to go to get the coordinates, and we needed to go to further the story, because what furthers the story here is what happened at the end with SM33. And that's really all you needed out of this episode and all you needed out of this planet. Plus, we haven't left this planet yet. We might still be on this planet at the start of next episode. So I don't think you need to spend that much more time there, though.
You might be right. Like maybe if they would have did it a different way to me, because like to me, all the stuff with like I guess you remember her name. I couldn't remember her name, but
yeah, her name is
character, the girl that's like talking to Neil and stuff, like went by so fast, like none of it was earned. So I didn't even really care. So like maybe if they would have just bumped into there and it was like this tribe that like respected kids and we did that thing. So that's why they were putting them out in the front, just assuming that they were like, maybe like, you know, really good or something like that. And
we
like,
had that bonding moment with Neil and the girls. We had that good bonding moment that they had with them.
To me, I just felt like it wasn't earned. Like in the story, it was like them talking for.
I would have liked to see the other side on how he got the other stuff back for them. I would maybe like to have seen that, but that was it. We didn't really need a whole lot with that. I thought it was a good episode. I was interested in it. It went by like I didn't realize because I was so into watching it how fast that it went. For me.
I mean, yeah,
because I enjoyed it.
I just disagreed with the parts of them trying to make these like bigger moments. And to me, nothing was actually like spent hardly any time at all on. And like, I'm supposed to believe that Neil and this girl within maybe 6-7 minutes of screen time together, period, all together, that they have this super big connection to where she's like, and the girl that played the part, I thought did really well. Like if that was built up to me, I would have been more into it a little bit, but like her, like, you know, almost like she doesn't even want to look at him because she's kind of like hating the fact that he's about to like leave and go finish his adventure, and like she's having to stay kind of thing. It's like,
well, it's because
y'all barely know each other.
He told her that his place is peaceful, and she's never known that. So she, of course, she was kind of like, oh, I would like, you know.
I understand like where she stands on like she would rather have peace than have to like her childhood's getting ripped from her and stuff like that. I understand what they're trying to do, but I'm saying like in a show, they barely had any interactions. They went and got some food together. They had a little bit
They had more interactions than any of the rest of the kids had. With
well, no, I agree, but that's my problem is like even in this one that's supposed to be more of the actual episode, I just really, to me, if they were going to do this,
she went with them. That would have been cool to me had she gone with them.
If they were going to do this type of episode, they could have met the girl the same way and everything, and then they got to the place, and then they went and got maybe in a little skirmish or a little battle. Jude Law comes out of nowhere. I don't know what you would want to change or whatever, and then like after that part's done, we find the coordinates like we did and everything, and not try to like get these moments in there because, like I said, it didn't like. We can
It
agree to
didn't work for
disagree,
you.
but
Yeah, we're gonna have to agree to disagree because it didn't work for you and it worked perfectly for me. I wouldn't change anything about this structure, to be perfectly honest.
yeah, I mean, I can agree and fall back a little bit on maybe we didn't need like 2 or 3 episodes here, but I'm gonna say I needed some more between them to believe she's upset that he's leaving.
Well, I
Like,
don't know that she's
She's
necessarily
upset.
upset that he's
No,
leaving. I
she's
mean,
not.
like she just basically learned something from him, which is kindness is not weakness, it's a strength.
Right.
And like with the way that her father acts, it's that if you're not strong and you exhibit kindness or you try to negotiate, that's weakness. And
Mhm.
she's just learned from Neil in their brief interactions, which you can learn from someone in a very brief interaction, that kindness is a strength, not a weakness. I think that was the whole point there. I really don't think you need more than that.
maybe not, but yeah, it just didn't hit for me. So I didn't. It was just too quick, like for me to have any emotional, like I said, she played the part. The girl, the actress, played the part. I thought pretty well if it was just built up more because of how she had the emotion in it when she's talking to him and stuff like that. I thought that was done well. I just think that I wanted more for it to get to that
Well,
level
Well, if
of
I've come
like
from a place that was always like fighting and stuff, and then someone tells me, and I don't know any other places that, because this is all I know, but like, and she's seen the kindness that he gave the food to the kids that were hungry that were sitting there, and like to say that there's other places out there that are different, and you don't have to fight all the time, and you can be peaceful and do other things. Like I would be a little bit okay. I'm a little bit curious and jealous. I'm like, I wish I could have that. And that's what she said at the end too. She was like, when I become in charge, I hope to be able to do the things that you said to me. Like, so have not the fighting and have a different outcome, because if everything people are working together, then you don't need to fight.
there was the only other thing besides that part that I didn't love about this episode. I don't know who was doing the acting for. So like I thought the little girl did a better job in the episode than say the guy who played her dad.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of felt weird to me for some reason, like just the way he was delivering his lines and stuff. Like
That's because he's
obviously,
tough.
well, obviously he's going to be like weird because of like they're in a different planet and they like look at things different. So
He was
that's
using
not what I'm
them.
talking about. No,
He was
I
using
understand. Yeah, I understand like his character
Mm-hmm.
and what he's trying to do as his character. I'm talking about like the way he said things.
That was
Like,
fine.
yeah, I don't know. He just kind of felt off to me. It's not so terrible that I'm like, oh my god, he's like horrible.
No, he was using them, and the tone that he was is he was using them, and he was making them as bait to go out first.
It was like the beating of the fang, and then like he would say a
Because
line.
he was using them. That's what.
No, I'm not talking about his character. I'm not talking about the character that's there. I'm talking about the
You're
actor,
talking about the
like
way he performed it.
the way he
That was
performed it. Yes, I just
that
thought
was
he was a little off. Like I don't know why.
that was clearly direction though,
Mm-hmm.
because like his banging of that like scepter thing that he had was like a cue for everyone else
Mm-hmm.
in the scene that were of that troik whatever we call them to do something else, like get on guard, pay attention, things like this. Like I don't have a problem with any of that either. I mean, it was a directing choice.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot like it, that's fine, but I didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, it was just kind of like how he was delivering his lines. And like I'm saying, I only brought up the thing about him like hitting the thing on the ground because maybe that made like delivering those lines just a little different. And I don't know. There was just something a little bit off to him. I mean, like I said, it wasn't so terrible that I'm like, oh my god, this show like sucks, or oh my god, this character completely sucked, kind of deal. Like I'm not like going out the door. And when I say this is like the weakest episode to me, it's not like we're gonna score this here in just a minute or whatever. I'm not gonna be giving it like a 4 or something like that. I'm not going that low with it, but yeah, there was just I like the first 3 episodes better. This episode, I just felt like it was just rushed to me. Whether you could have made a longer episode, maybe putting 15 more minutes in there, that would have made it close to an hour long, which is actually pretty long for a Disney Plus show. But if you would have had that, and maybe we got a little more with the Neil and the girl and stuff, I'd have felt a little better about it. But yeah, I'm just not. I don't hate it or anything, but I'm not as positive as you two are.
I would agree that this is probably the weakest of the 4 episodes that we've gotten so far. I just don't. Yeah, I just don't think that it's has the issues that you think it had. That's just where we're at. So let's move on, because we're just rehashing this over and over.
But I mean, most of what we're talking about, I'm be honest here, because of some of these episodes not being super long, like we kind of already brushed over like almost the whole episode, because like that was the main key. The Neil and her interaction, and then them finding the actual tablet being messed up and the droid actually knowing
the stuff with SM33 is the key of this episode, which is noticed yesterday I couldn't sleep. I watched a shit ton of Skeleton Crew reactions from a bunch of reactors, and the one thing I kept noticing as I'm watching this is he keeps saying, I can't say I remember no at-attin. And after a while, after hearing that over and over, I watched like 60 reactions yesterday. So after you hear that over and over and over, it starts to get into your head, and I'm like, that's very deliberate phrasing. I bet you anything the location to at-attin is in his memory bank. And we found out today that it is. And I love that it is a conversation between Fern and Wim, where Fern's basically getting mad at Wim for expecting her to figure it out, that gets her to figure it out on how to get the information that he knows where at-attin is out of him. Now, the twist they put on this is that he then starts to try to attack the children, which Jod stops as he turns it off. And the adorable part where Neil passes out at the end was just so cute.
Because Neil was the one to stand up to the droid.
Neil took some rocks and threw them at SM33 as he was going after Fern, KB, and Wim. But that's the really important part here. Like the rest of this episode was good, and it might be interesting to revisit at some point later. Like, oh, we know that Akron, which was the name of this planet, is still around. It's a war zone. Maybe we should help when we get back to at-attin or something like that. Or maybe they won't, and maybe it'll just be this one-off adventure that led them to this important discovery of, we have to now get these coordinates out of this droid that wants to kill you if you ask about the coordinates. That's an interesting place to leave this, I think.
The positives I'll have is, like, I think the 4 kids that are the main characters, like when they're interacting with each other, they've done, like, I think they've done super great, super good. Like, even in this episode, when it was like them and all that, had no issues at all. Like you said, you brought up Neil, like passing out at the end, fits his character. It was kind of funny and stuff. Even I smiled at that a little bit. And then I will give another prop to this episode, is why I'm not like really low on it. One of the good things I thought was the actual SM33, like when he gets to that point, like he was legitly scary, right? It wasn't something stupid or dumb. He was legitly scary. Like he's going to tear him apart. And like,
his voice even changed.
Oh yeah. So like, I actually like that part of it. I thought that part was pretty good. To be perfectly honest. So like that kind of stuff brings up the episode a little bit. Like I can overlook some of that other stuff as long as there's other things that are good. Like I said, I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with the story they're telling so far or any of that, especially like first 3 episodes. My biggest complaint so far would be this episode is at one point. The other 3 episodes I thought went smoothly. And then we got to this episode and it was like, oh my God, they just met them. They're already doing this, already doing this. Like, it just felt like rushed to me. Like, I wish some of it we could have lingered on a little bit longer, but that would be like my issue. But the positives are there and still doing pretty good in those particular aspects.
What did you think of the SM33 stuff, Brandi?
Oh, I liked it. We got to see a different side of that. She overrode him, and then because she's like, I'm the captain, override your things, let us know what. And then the memory bank kind of went, and then he turned into this big a rip from limb for limb, and I was like, holy crap, like he's totally different from what he is.
That's one of my favorite things about SM33 is he's like this hunched over like droid, but when it's time to fight, he like powers up and he does like in the second episode he did like the Henry Cavill arm cock thing from Mission Impossible. And I think Nick Frost is doing a great job voicing him, and he got so much more menacing when he turned into like ready to rip them limb from limb in this episode. So I think they're doing a great job with SM33. I heard that's a puppet they're using that they like animate with CG.
Might be kind of cool, yeah. There's a lot of like that's what I've gave this show so far props on is like when they're doing like the aliens, like even Neil, they're not just doing CGI. Like there might be some CGI to help clean up the actual like suit or whatever the kid's wearing, but like they're doing pretty good with that kind of stuff. Like I'll even point out SM33, he's like walking away in one scene and it's kind of like a further off shot, so you can actually see like his hips, and like even how they had that either animated or put together as a puppet, like where he's walking and his hips are kind of like messed up and they're doing the thing.
You even see him walking with the limp, and then when he was in the other version, he was not limping like that.
Yeah.
And then, but no, I just like the fact that it made it legitly, like made him like legitly scary, like at that point, right? It's like, oh, shoot, if you're a kid, like, oh my God. Like, and another thing that I do like, and that's why I do give some props to the writing, because so far I've had no issues with technically writing. It was when she overrides him to do the memory, your obvious thing would be, well, as soon as he says something about I have to pull people apart, all she has to do is say, I'm the captain now, the orders are changed, you know, you're not to pull anybody apart, right? Because that would affect him as well, just like the memory thing did. But what I'm giving him props on is that she goes to say something like that, and the other two being scared and them backing up because he's coming after them, kind of pull her down in the middle of her trying to say something like that. So now you can't say, oh, that's stupid. Like all she had to do was turn around and override that part of the protocol. But she actually was trying to do that, got interrupted. And then the Neil throwing the rock happened. And then Jude Law was able to come up behind him and turn him off and everything else. So I actually thought that was actually legit. To me, that's like, okay, they're looking at the details. That's possibly somebody would have said, even me, I possibly would have said it would have been like, yo, that's a little dumb that you can override his memory loss, but then all of a sudden you can't override the part that tells you to rip them apart. But she actually does. Fern does try to do that and gets interrupted.
Yeah. Shout out to those 4 kids. They're doing phenomenal. Ryan Kiera Armstrong playing Fern, Ravi Conyers playing Wim, Kiriana Cratters playing KB, and Robert Timothy Smith especially doing Neil. That's got to be hard for a kid to act in that like suit with the mask and everything. They're all doing great.
Yeah, like he's I would say there's some positive and negatives about being a kid inside one of those kind of suits. The positive would be is like you don't have to do a whole lot like facial wise, you know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to like bring in the emotions and stuff because it's all part of your costume or whatnot. But the negative part would be like how hard is it to see in that thing? How is he able, like not being able to see really good and then having to maneuver around plus do your voice lines right could be the negative and hard part about that. So I really don't know what would be the better trade-off.
Do a lot of body acting.
Yeah. That obvious, like he, especially with his hands and stuff.
Yeah, I like that kid. I like that Neil at the end kind of got a little bit brave to try to save his friends. Because he was the shy nerdy, and before he was like, I'm nervous, and the girl's like, well, you wouldn't be as nervous if you had a friend.
Yeah, I've seen some things with like kids that were kind of annoying and not like in their character supposed to be annoying. They just kind of suck.
Neil's
so
my favorite.
No, but I've seen some things with kids like that, more recently, and it just kind of drags everything down. I will say, whoever was like the person that picked these kids to play their roles and all that good stuff, like they did great because all 4 of the main characters did well. And like I said earlier, the daughter I thought did a better job than the father in this episode as far as like acting skills, the way she was able to put it together. Like my whole big point earlier was I just feel like it's rushed. Y'all don't feel that way, but I just felt this episode was like rushed in some cases. Like the training didn't take a second, and then you're putting them out there in the front, like those type of things. But I think if we had a longer time, right? So it showed them training for a little bit longer,
They weren't really training. That was them just.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's like you're
They
gonna
weren't
train
really
and then
training, and they
yeah,
acknowledged that the kids are hopeless at it.
Yeah.
Like that's the point. He was putting
right.
them out there basically as like a shield to
Yeah.
protect his people who can actually fight should they be attacked.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I kind of get it. I just felt like it went a little too fast for that stuff.
I will say another thing I liked about this episode is that it was mostly the kids. It
Mhm.
wasn't a very Jod centric episode. Yeah, he shows up and but he shows up because he stole some of their
Stole.
credits and bought his freedom. So like they're not happy with him even though he showed up. And I think that there's a lot of really interesting stuff in that can come from that because who knows how many of those credits he gave him. He said a couple, but they only had like a handful of them.
Like 7, something like that.
Yeah. So
Bro, that
that's
things might
an
be worth a
interesting
lot because that first puppet, like in the second episode, I think when he got like 1 or 2 of them for taking them to the thing to the dock, bro, he ran off. He was gone.
Yeah.
He knew he had to get that shit back somewhere safe. Like so, that might even a couple of those might be worth like a huge crap ton of like money. To be honest with
Yeah.
you.
Mhm.
So yeah, you're right. He maybe only had to spend like 1 or 2 of them to be able to get those Eopies. I think it was back. That are basically
'cause-
like cattle. They're basically like cattle for that kind of thing. So it's big for them for food, for hides, all that kind of stuff, and everything else. They do it in a good way. There are things I've seen too where they do this wrong. The whole Jude Law being the only adult and whatnot. At the very beginning, they do some kind of like jokey things with him. So he comes into the cockpit and sees like the world, and he's making a comment on them, and then they're saying, no adults in the cockpit, but they have SM33 there and stuff, and they do it like in a funny way
Mhm.
that kind of makes sense or whatever. I said that in the last episode because if it was just these kids like telling him everything to do, I'd be like, oh, this is stupid because like he's supposed to be because eventually Jude Law is going to have to like take something down. All right, the kids are going to get in trouble. Jude Law is going to have to step up, and in some ways, he's almost saved their lives already. But like in a very like bigger way, this is going to end with him having to step up and make a decision and take some people out. So you're not beating his character, even though you're pushing off to the side every now and then, like at the beginning of the episode. You're doing it in a funny, creative way that's like funny, and the whole like SM33 saying like, "Oh, come up here, baby."
Yeah, that was funny.
That kind of stuff was funny, but like it makes sense because SM33 would take his ass out, like if he was given the order to. So, and Jude Law's character knows that, so it's like, all right, just whatever.
I also think that this end of the episode has left the kids in a very interesting position because they don't trust Jod, and them using the credits that they did until that point they didn't know he knew they had. Proves that they can't trust him because he just took their money and used it to save his own ass. But now they can't trust SM33 either because when they try to get the information out of SM33, he's going to want to kill them again if he doesn't want to kill them the second they turn him back on. So it puts the kids in a very interesting position of not being able to trust either of their adult figures, because I kind of consider SM33 to be the other adult figure in this show for these kids, and that'll be interesting to explore in the next episodes.
Yeah, I think the beginning of the next episode is going to be like KB fiddling around with SM33's like brain because she knows how to mess with electronics and stuff like that, kind of like wiping, maybe fixing that one part of his memory that he's trying to rip people apart, maybe, or whatever. That would be what I said.
She said that he only has like 1 million wirings. I was like,
but they're gonna have to get him that droid back to their ship without turning him on, because if they turn him back on, he's gonna want to kill the kids on sight. So it'll be interesting.
All right, let's go down and any last thoughts and go ahead and give a score for your episode. Go down the line.
Those were my last thoughts. I'll give this episode a 6.5. Like it was okay. The real important stuff was what happened at the end, and that was the best part of the episode for me, but I didn't hate the rest of it, and I don't know how you would have structured this any differently. So yeah, I'm at a 6.5.
Yeah, I don't have any more to add either. I said a lot of all I said, but I'm in the same boat. I'm like a 6.5, 7 around for me for that. I like the episode.
Yeah, I'm around like a little bit on this particular episode. I still think the show still ranks decently high for me as far as like we've been doing like 7.5. So like, but on this episode, it's like a 5.5 to 6. I'm just a little bit more down on this episode than you guys were, just because, like I said, I just felt like it was just certain things that just didn't hit real good because I thought it was like 3 seconds and then we had something. I mean, I get if other people don't feel that way or whatever. That's own personal like kind of preferences and stuff. But yeah, still going to be watching. It's not even though I guess we would have rated this episode the lowest of the 4 so far. It's not so bad that you're like, oh, I'm walking away from this show. Definitely not even close to that. There's still good moments. There's still good moments and stuff in there, and
yeah,
we'll see how episode. What is there supposed to be? 8 episodes of this?
There's 8 episodes. So this is the halfway point.
So yep, we have 5, 6, 7, and 8. We'll be back here for 5 next week, guys. Please like, subscribe, put your thoughts about the episode in the comments below.
Thanks for subscribing, by the way. We hit 1,000 subscribers on the channel yesterday.
Yeah,
Sure did.
I'm so happy.
Now we just got to work on them watch hours.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, we're about to get out of here. Thank you, guys. May the force be with you. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm looking at the wrong thing, but there we go.